They broke a human cadet for 3 hours straight. That was their first mistake. Because humans don't break alone. The observation deck smelled like recycled air and bad decisions. Velkrim stood with his forearms crossed, watching through the reinforced glass as the human cadet wheezed out another pathetic attempt at defiance. Tommy Chen, according to the file, 22 standard cycles old, fresh from some backwater recruitment center on Earth. Right now he looked like he regretted every choice that led him to this moment. Please. Tommy gasped, blood trickling from his split lip. I already told you everything. Interrogator Brektar, the largest of the 3 Krell in the room, chittered with amusement. His exoskeleton gleamed under the harsh lights as he circled the chair where Tommy was restrained. Everything? No, no, no. You have told us operational codes. We want strategic projections, fleet movements, command hierarchies. I am just a cadet, Tommy said, and Velkrim had to admit the kid had stamina. 3 hours into this session, most species would have cracked like egg shells. They do not tell cadets that information. Interrogator Shelvik struck him across the face. Not hard enough to cause permanent damage, of course. That would violate 17 different articles of the Galactic Convention on Warfare. Just hard enough to hurt. Just enough to encourage cooperation. Velkrim tapped notes into his data pad. Clinical and detached. Humans were supposed to be weak. Fragile. Their bones broke easily. Their skin tore with minimal pressure. They required specific atmospheric conditions, specific temperature ranges, specific everything. The intelligence briefs had been very clear about this. Deathworld designation or not, they were a species that could be broken with standard interrogation protocols. So why was this one still holding out? Curious, Velkrim muttered to himself. Commander Zelenor, standing beside him in the observation deck, turned one of her eye stalks toward him. What is curious, analyst? The human. He should have broken by now. Velkrim gestured at the screens displaying Tommy's vital signs. His stress hormones are through the ceiling. His heart rate is elevated. Pain receptors are firing constantly. By every measurable standard he is suffering, yet he continues to resist. Stubbornness is not unique to humans, Zelenor said. No. But this level of it is unusual for a species classified as soft-bodied prey animals. Through the glass, Brektar leaned close to Tommy's face. Your friends abandoned you, human. Your ship fled. Your commanding officer did not even try to recover you. You are alone. Forgotten. Why protect them? Tommy lifted his head, and despite the swelling around his eyes, despite the exhaustion evident in every line of his body, he smiled. Actually smiled. Because you clearly have never met humans before. We are really bad at giving up. Shelvik hit him again. Velkrim made another note. The human psyche was proving more resilient than projections indicated. Interesting. The breaking point would come eventually, of course. It always did. The Krell had been conducting interrogations for 3,000 cycles. They knew every psychological pressure point, every physical threshold, every technique to crack even the most stubborn prisoner. Humans were nothing special. Except, Velkrim watched as Tommy spat blood onto the floor and started laughing. Quiet, pained laughter that sounded half mad. Something funny, cadet? Brektar demanded. Yeah, Tommy wheezed. You guys are so screwed and you do not even know it yet. Velkrim frowned. That was not the response of someone breaking. That was the response of someone who knew something they did not. Explain, Brektar commanded. Tommy just kept laughing, even as Shelvik raised his manipulator appendage for another strike. Any moment now, Velkrim said quietly, more to himself than to Commander Zelenor. The breaking point is coming. He cannot hold out much longer. He was right about that, just not in the way he expected. The first alarm was easy to ignore. Station security systems went off at least twice a shift for mundane reasons. Maintenance droids, triggering motion sensors, atmospheric fluctuations, someone forgetting their access codes. Velkrim did not even look up from his datapad. The second alarm got his attention. The third alarm, followed by the sound of something exploding 3 decks down, got everyone's attention. What in the name of the Founders? Commander Zelenor's eye stalks swiveled toward the observation deck entrance. Security. Report. The comms crackled to life. Commander, we have an unauthorized entry in docking bay 7. Single intruder. Human. Female. The security officer paused, and Velkrim could hear screaming in the background. She is not stopping. Then stop her, Zelenor snapped. Use suppression protocols. We tried. She broke through the security barrier. Hansen and Takol are down. She is heading toward the detention levels. Velkrim felt something cold settle in his thorax. He looked through the glass at Tommy Chen, who had suddenly stopped laughing and gone very, very still. The human's eyes had gone wide, and if Velkrim did not know better, he would say the expression on the cadet's face was pure terror. No, not terror, recognition. Oh no, Tommy whispered. Jesse, what did you do? Another explosion, closer this time. The observation deck shuddered. Velkrim grabbed the console to steady himself, his forearms scrambling for purchase. Through the facility's internal cameras, he pulled up security feeds and felt his respiratory system freeze. A human woman, maybe 30 cycles old, was carving through the station like a meteor through tissue paper. She was not particularly large by human standards, maybe 1.7 meters tall, compact build, dark hair pulled back in what his database identified as a ponytail. She wore civilian clothing, not military gear. No armor, no visible weapons. She did not need them. Security Officer Kalamoth, a Krell nearly twice her size, tried to tackle her in Corridor Junction 12. She sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and used his own momentum to send him crashing into the wall with enough force to crack the reinforced plating. He did not get up. This is a violation of every station protocol, Velkrim said, unable to look away from the screens. Every single one. You cannot just assault a military detention facility. There are procedures, treaties, regulations. Someone inform the human of that, Zelenor said, her voice tight. On the screen, Jessie Kane, because Tommy had been helpful enough to name her, vaulted over a security barricade. 4 officers opened fire with stun weapons. The bolts hit her square in the chest. She staggered, grunted, shook her head like she was clearing cobwebs, and kept moving. Did she just? Velkrim could not finish the sentence. Absorb a full stun charge, Zelenor completed. Yes, that should have knocked her unconscious for 6 hours. Clearly, she did not read the manual. Jessie grabbed a fire suppression canister off the wall and swung it like a club. 2 more security officers went down. She was not even trying to kill anyone. Velkrim realized with dawning horror. She was pulling her strikes, holding back, and she was still overwhelming trained military personnel like they were cadets on their first day. Seal the detention wing, Zelenor ordered. Blast doors, full lockdown. If she wants to play soldier, we will treat her like an invasion force. The heavy blast doors began to slide closed throughout the facility. Emergency lights bathing everything in red. Velkrim watched Jessie break into a run, her boots pounding against the deck plating. She was still 3 corridors away from the interrogation room. The doors were closing. She was not going to make it. Except she did something that made Velkrim's analysis brain simply give up trying to rationalize human behavior. She jumped, planted 1 foot on the wall, pushed off at an angle that should have been physically impossible, and dove through the narrowing gap of the blast door with centimeters to spare. She rolled to her feet on the other side, directly in front of the interrogation wing entrance. In the interrogation room, Brektar looked up toward the door, confusion evident in his posture. Velkrim checked the readings again. 1 human female. No weapons. No backup. No plan that made any logical sense whatsoever. She is going to get herself killed, he said. Tommy Chen, still strapped to the chair and bleeding, started laughing again. No, the cadet said. You are. The interrogation room door did not so much open as explode inward. Jessie Kane stood in the doorway, chest heaving, eyes scanning the room with the kind of cold calculation that made Velkrim's survival instinct scream at him to run. Her gaze locked onto Tommy, took in the blood and the bruises and the restraints, and something shifted in her expression. Something dangerous. Hey Tommy, she said, her voice conversational, almost pleasant. You look like hell, Jessie, Tommy said. And the relief in his voice was palpable. You should not be here. Yeah, well, neither should you, but here we are. She turned her attention to the 3 Krell interrogators, who had backed away from the chair, positioning themselves in a defensive formation. So, which one of you gentlemen wants to explain why you are beating up my little brother? Velkrim's datapad nearly slipped from his hands. Brother. Oh, that explained the absolute lack of self-preservation instinct on display. Brektar recovered first, his exoskeleton plates flaring in an intimidation display. You are in violation of Galactic Military Code, Section 4012. Surrender immediately or we will use lethal force. Jessie tilted her head, considering. Lethal force? Okay. You first. She moved. Velcrim had studied human combat footage. He had watched training exercises, reviewed military engagements, analyzed their physical capabilities, frame by frame. Nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared him for watching it happen in real time, 3 meters away through reinforced glass. Brekthar swung his primary manipulator arm at her head. She ducked under it, stepped inside his guard, and drove her elbow into the joint of his exoskeleton. The crack echoed through both rooms. Brekthar shrieked, a high-pitched sound that Krell only made when experiencing significant pain. Shelvik lunged from her left. Jessie grabbed his arm, twisted, used his own weight against him and sent him crashing into the interrogation table. The metal bent under the impact. You know what I love about you, Krell types, Jessie said, sidestepping a wild swing from the third interrogator, whose name Velcrim had forgotten in the chaos. You rely way too much on that fancy exoskeleton, great for intimidation. Terrible when someone knows where the weak points are. She proved her point by kicking the third interrogator's knee joint, which bent in a direction nature never intended. He went down hard. This is not possible, Velcrim muttered, his eyes locked on the scene. She is unarmed, unarmored. She should not be able to defeat 3 trained Krell combatants. Deathworld, Commander Zelenor said, her voice hollow. The briefings mentioned it. I thought it was exaggeration. In the interrogation room, Brekthar had recovered enough to charge at Jessie with all his considerable mass. She waited until the last second, dropped low and swept his legs. All 600 pounds of armored Krell hit the floor face first. Jessie was on him immediately, wrenching one of his arms back until he went still. Tap out or I break it, she said cheerfully. Your choice. Brekthar tapped the floor with his free manipulator. Twice. The universal sign of submission. Jessie released him and stood, barely winded, surveying the 3 interrogators who were now in various states of incapacitation. The entire fight had lasted maybe 45 seconds. Anyone else want to dance? She asked the room at large. Silence. Good talk. She moved to Tommy's chair and began working on the restraints. Sorry it took me so long. Had to convince the captain to give me your last known coordinates. He was weirdly reluctant to let me commit 17 different war crimes. 18, Tommy said, wincing as blood flow returned to his hands. You assaulted a diplomatic station. That is the 18th one. Oh, right. Lost count. The restraints came free and Jessie helped Tommy to his feet, supporting him when his legs wobbled. Can you walk? Can I walk? Jessie, you just fought your way through an entire military facility by yourself. Yeah, but I asked if you could walk. I can walk. Liar. She slung his arm over her shoulders, taking most of his weight. Come on, little brother. Let us go home. Velcrim watched them head toward the door, his analytical mind trying and failing to process what he had just witnessed. In the span of less than 1 minute, every assumption he had made about human combat capability had been thoroughly destroyed, and Jessie Kane had done it while maintaining a running commentary like she was discussing the weather. Should we? One of the security officers in the observation deck began. No, Commander Zelenor said flatly. We should not. Let them go. But Commander, did you not watch the same thing I just did? She took down 3 Krell interrogators in under a minute. What exactly do you think we are going to accomplish except adding more bodies to the casualty list? Through the glass, Jessie paused at the doorway and looked directly at the observation window. She could not possibly see them through the one-way glass, but Velcrim felt like she was staring straight into his soul anyway. She smiled and waved. Then she was gone, Tommy limping beside her, leaving behind 3 groaning Krell in a room full of shattered assumptions. Velcrim stood frozen, staring at the empty doorway where Jessie Kane had just stood, and felt the foundations of his understanding crumble into dust. The intelligence briefing. Oh, ancestors. The intelligence briefing. It had been 6 months ago. Standard cycle. A junior analyst named Peltros had presented findings on Earth, the newest species to join the Galactic Coalition. Velcrim had been there, sitting in the back row, half paying attention while reviewing other reports on his datapad. Earth is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, Peltros had said, projecting images of the planet onto the main screen. Velcrim remembered looking up briefly, seeing a blue and green sphere that looked deceptively peaceful. What makes it a 12? Someone had asked. Everything, Peltras had replied. Gravity 1.3 times standard, atmospheric oxygen levels that would be toxic to most species, predators in every ecological niche, diseases, parasites, weather patterns that include frozen water falling from the sky and electrical storms that can level structures, tectonic activity, volcanic eruptions, radiation from their star. The ocean alone contains enough creatures capable of killing a human that it is statistically miraculous they ever learned to swim. The room had laughed. Velcrim remembered laughing, and yet they thrived there. Peltras had continued. Humans are endurance predators. Their bodies regulate temperature through liquid excretion. They can survive injuries that would kill most species. They have redundant systems for critical functions. They heal remarkably fast. Their pain tolerance is frankly absurd. And perhaps most importantly, they form pack bonds so strong that they will willingly risk death for each other, even for non-related individuals. Sounds like propaganda, someone had said. It sounds like a species we should be very, very careful with, Peltras had countered, but the briefing had been filed away, marked as interesting but not urgent. After all, humans were new to the coalition, small population in space, limited technology compared to elder species. They would adapt to galactic standards eventually. They would learn their place. Velcrim felt sick. We made a mistake, he said aloud. Commander Zelenor turned all three eye stalks toward him. Explain. The briefing. 6 months ago. About Earth. About humans. Velcrim pulled up the file on his datapad with trembling manipulators. We dismissed it. We thought it was exaggeration, but it was all true. Every word of it. He scrolled through the data, seeing it with new eyes. Human bone density, 3 times that of comparable species. Muscle fiber efficiency that allowed them to perform feats of strength far beyond what their size suggested. A cardiovascular system designed to chase prey for hours, days even, until it collapsed from exhaustion. An immune system that treated most galactic pathogens as minor inconveniences, and the psychological profile, the pack bonding, the protective instincts, the absolute refusal to abandon their own. She came alone, Velcrim said, his voice barely a whisper. One human female. No weapons, no armor, no backup. She assaulted a military detention facility staffed by 200 personnel because we made the catastrophic error of capturing her packmate. Brother, Zelenor corrected. She said brother. Family bond. Even worse. Velcrim looked up from his datapad, realization dawning like a cold sun. Commander, we have to let them go. I already gave that order. No, I mean we have to actively help them leave. Clear the corridors, open the hangar bay doors, throw them a parade on the way out if necessary. Why? Because if we do not, if we try to stop her, if we escalate this situation even 1 degree further, that woman is going to dismantle this entire station with her bare hands. And the terrifying part, according to these files, she is not even military. She is civilian. Imagine what their actual soldiers are capable of. The observation deck fell silent except for the groaning of the 3 Krell in the interrogation room below. Velcrim pulled up more files. Human military history. Wars that lasted generations. Conflicts fought in every conceivable environment from frozen wastelands to burning deserts. Species-wide disasters that they simply refused to let kill them. The sheer, stubborn, absolutely insane refusal to quit that seemed to be hardwired into their DNA. They come from a world that is actively trying to kill them every single day, Velcrim said. And they not only survived it, they thrived. They made it their home. They love it. What we consider lethal hazards, they call weather. What we consider dangerous megafauna, they turned into pets. They are apex predators who forgot they were supposed to be prey. Commander Zelenor was quiet for a long moment. You are recommending we let an enemy combatant walk out of our facility. I am recommending we do not give her a reason to come back. Another alarm blared. Security feeds showed Jesse Kane, still supporting Tommy, approaching the first major checkpoint between the detention wing and the hangar bays. 20 security officers were stationed there, weapons ready, barricades in place. Velcrim made his decision. He opened a comm channel to the checkpoint commander. Stand down. Let them through. Sir, we have orders. I am countermanding those orders. Clear the path. Now, he ended the transmission and looked at Commander Zelenor, waiting for her to override him, to call him a coward, to demand they defend their station. Instead, she simply nodded. Wise choice, she said. Velkrim's order arrived 3 seconds too late. The checkpoint commander, a Vrexian named Korsel, had apparently decided that his career was worth more than his life. As Jesse and Tommy approached the barricade, he gave the order to open fire. Well, Jesse said, shoving Tommy behind a support pillar, so much for the peaceful option. Stun bolts filled the corridor, turning the air blue with energy discharge. Jesse grabbed a maintenance panel off the wall, using it as a shield while she assessed the situation. 20 officers, 4 different species, standard security loadout, barricades that were meant to stop a charging Krell, not a human with a point to prove. You know what your problem is, Jesse shouted over the weapon's fire. You trained for enemies that follow rules. She threw the maintenance panel like a discus. It sailed over the barricades and clipped Korsel in the head, dropping him instantly. The weapon's fire stuttered, confused. Jesse did not wait for them to reorganize. She ran at the barricade, jumped, planted 1 foot on top of it, and launched herself into the middle of their formation. Oh no, Velkrim muttered, watching through the security feeds. Oh no, no, no. What followed was not a fight. It was an educational demonstration on why you do not corner a Deathworld predator. A Thalaxian officer, all 4 arms reaching for her, learned that human joints bent in ways that made grappling them a nightmare. Jesse twisted out of his grip, used his own arm as a lever, and sent him spinning into 2 of his colleagues. Seriously? She said almost conversationally. 4 arms and you still cannot hold me. That is just embarrassing. 3 Vrexians tried to rush her simultaneously. She dropped low, swept the legs of the first, used the second as a springboard to vault over the third, and delivered a kick to the back of his head that sent him face first into the deck plating. Your training is garbage, Jesse announced to the room at large. Who taught you to rush in a straight line? Was it a child? Did a child design your tactics? Velkrim pulled up the station's training protocols on his datapad, scanning through decades of combat doctrine, proven techniques, strategies that had worked against every conceivable enemy. None of it accounted for humans. Their training assumed enemies fought logically. Humans were chaos in motion. Their training assumed predictable movement patterns. Humans moved like liquid, like they had twice as many joints as they actually did. Their training assumed pain would slow an opponent down. Humans seemed to get more dangerous when injured, like pain made them angry instead of cautious. This is absurd, Velkrim said, watching Jesse disarm a Krell by simply refusing to let go of his weapon when he tried to pull it back. She held on, let him pull her into range, and headbutted him square in the face. His exoskeleton cracked. She just headbutted an armored Krell. His armor cracked. Her head did not. Bone density, Commander Zalanor said weakly. The briefing mentioned bone density. A Quellan officer, slim and quick, thought speed would be an advantage. He darted in with a shock baton, aiming for Jesse's ribs. She caught his wrist mid-swing, twisted, and suddenly the officer was on the ground and she had his baton. Thanks. I needed one of these, Jesse said cheerfully, testing the weight. Bit light, but it will do. The next 4 officers went down in rapid succession, the shock baton humming through the air. Jesse used it like an extension of her arm, striking nerve clusters and joint connections with surgical precision. Each hit dropped an officer immediately. She has formal training, Velkrim realized, his analytical brain finally catching up. This is not just natural ability. She knows exactly where to hit each species for maximum effect. How? Zalanor demanded. Because she studied. Because humans, unlike us, apparently take their coalition membership seriously enough to learn the anatomy of every species they might encounter. Tommy, still leaning against the support pillar and looking like he might pass out at any moment, started laughing again. Jesse teaches hand-to-hand combat at the academy. She has a doctorate in xenobiology. You literally picked the worst possible human to mess with. He could have mentioned that earlier, Velkrim said. You could have asked. Tommy shot back. In the corridor, Jesse had reached the last 3 standing officers. They looked at each other, looked at the 17 bodies groaning on the ground around them, looked at Jesse standing there barely winded, and made the smart choice. They ran. Good call, Jesse yelled after them. She tossed the shock baton aside and moved back to Tommy, checking him over. You okay? I have been better. You? Oh, you know. Tuesday. She helped him up again, supporting his weight. Come on. I parked illegally and I really do not want a ticket on top of everything else. You parked illegally. At a military station. where you assaulted 24 security officers. Priorities, Tommy. I have priorities. Velcrim switched through camera feeds, tracking their progress. Every checkpoint they passed, security forces took one look at Jesse Kane and decided discretion was the better part of valor. Smart. They stepped aside, weapons lowered, letting the two humans pass without incident. The casualty counter on Velcrim's screen kept climbing. 24 incapacitated. 0 fatalities. She had torn through trained military personnel like they were training dummies, and she had done it without killing a single one. She is holding back, Velcrim said, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. This entire time she has been holding back. She could have killed every person in this facility and she chose not to. Merciful, Zelenor observed. Terrifying. Velcrim corrected. She is terrifying precisely because she is merciful. She is demonstrating that she does not need to kill us, that she can afford to show restraint, that we are not threats, we are inconveniences. On screen, Jesse and Tommy reached the final corridor leading to the hangar bay. Empty. Velcrim had made sure of it. Clear path to the hangar. He confirmed over comms. Bay doors are opening. She should encounter no further resistance. Should? Zelenor asked. I gave the orders. Whether anyone is stupid enough to ignore them is no longer my concern. He hoped, for everyone's sake, that no one was that stupid. He really hoped. The hangar bay doors slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing the docking area where Jesse's ship sat waiting. Except calling it a ship was generous. It looked like someone had welded a cargo hauler to a personal transport and hoped for the best. That is your escape vehicle? Velcrim asked no one in particular, staring at the feed in disbelief. It flies, Jesse said as if she could hear him through the cameras. She probably could not, but Velcrim was past the point of making assumptions about human capabilities. Mostly, Tommy wheezed as she helped him up the boarding ramp. Jesse, that thing barely passed inspection last time. It passed. That is what counts. Velcrim had left the observation deck, following their progress through the station corridors at a safe distance. Safe being relative. He wanted to see this through, needed to understand exactly what kind of species they had so catastrophically underestimated. Commander Zelenor had not stopped him. She seemed content to let him document humanity's exit from their lives. He reached the hangar bay entrance just as Jesse was loading Tommy into the ship. She moved with efficient precision, strapping him into a seat, checking his injuries with practiced hands, muttering something about broken ribs and concussion protocols. You came alone, Velcrim called out, his voice echoing in the massive hangar. He had not planned to speak. The words just came out. Jesse turned, and for the first time he saw her up close without reinforced glass between them. She was smaller than the cameras made her seem. Compact. Efficient. Every movement purposeful. Her eyes were a brown color that his translator had no proper word for, and they assessed him with the same clinical precision she had used on the security forces. Yeah, she said simply. I did. That was tactically insane. Probably, she shrugged. He is my brother. What was I supposed to do? Leave him? Yes, Velcrim said. By any rational calculation you should have left him. One life is not worth the political incident you just created. It is not worth the risk you took. The odds of success were astronomically against you. Jesse smiled, and it was not a kind expression. You are thinking like someone who has never had family worth dying for. I feel sorry for you. Before Velcrim could respond, the station-wide comm system crackled to life. Station Commander Rathkul, who had apparently been watching from the safety of the command deck, had finally found his voice. Human. Rathkul boomed, his voice vibrating with barely contained rage. You have committed acts of war against this facility. You have assaulted military personnel. You have violated 17 treaties and caused damages that will take months to repair. You will be hunted. You will be found. And you will face galactic justice for what you have done here today. Jesse looked up at the nearest speaker, considering. Then she raised one hand and extended her middle finger in what Velcrim's database unhelpfully identified as a rude gesture common to human cultures. Vilmi, she said. She turned back to her ship, then paused at the boarding ramp. Hey, analyst guy, Velcrim blinked. How did you know? You have that look, like you are cataloging everything for a report. She tilted her head. Word of advice, tell your bosses that humans are not soft. We are not weak. We are not easy targets. We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years, and we are still here. We do not break easy. We do not give up. And we really do not like it when you hurt our people. Is that a threat? No, it is a warning. There is a difference. She started up the ramp, then called back over her shoulder. Oh, and tell them one more thing. I am a civilian. A teacher. Imagine what our actual military could do if they wanted to. The ramp sealed behind her. Velcrim stood there, in the empty hangar, watching the absurd little ship power up its engines. The docking clamps released, maneuvering thrusters fired, and with a casual disregard for proper departure protocols, Jessie Kane piloted her ship straight out of the hangar bay and into open space. Station Commander Rathkol was screaming orders over the comm. Scramble fighters. Pursuit course. Do not let them reach jump distance. Standard procedure for enemy combatants fleeing the scene. Velcrim opened a channel directly to the command deck. Commander, I strongly recommend we let them go. Absolutely not. No one attacks my station and she disabled 24 trained security personnel in under 10 minutes. She fought her way through 3 levels of our facility without killing anyone, which means she could have killed everyone and chose not to. She demonstrated restraint, mercy even, while completely overwhelming our defenses, and she did it all to rescue one injured cadet. Velcrim paused, letting that sink in. Now imagine what an entire ship full of humans would do if we actually gave them a reason to be angry. The comm went silent. Velcrim watched Jessie's ship reach minimum safe distance and engage its jump drive. There was a flash of light, a ripple in space-time, and they were gone. The hangar bay felt very empty, very quiet, and Velcrim felt something he had not experienced in his entire career as an intelligence analyst. Fear, not of what had happened, but of what humanity represented. A species that valued a single individual enough to risk everything, that possessed combat capabilities far beyond their size and appearance, suggested, that could be merciful to their enemies even while defeating them utterly. We are so unprepared, he whispered to the empty hangar. Somewhere in the depths of space, carrying her battered brother home, Jessie Kane was probably laughing, and Velcrim could not even blame her. 3 hours later, Velcrim sat in his office, staring at the blinking cursor on his datapad. The report was due. Commander Zelenor wanted a full analysis. Station Commander Rathkol wanted someone to blame. The Galactic Coalition Council wanted explanations for why a single civilian human had turned a secure military facility into her personal obstacle course. He began typing. Incident report. Detention Station Kappa 7. Analyst Velcrim presiding. His manipulators hovered over the keys. Where did he even start? How did he explain that everything they thought they knew about humans was catastrophically, dangerously wrong? At approximately 1400 hours station time, human civilian Jessie Kane, age 32 standard cycles, assaulted this facility with the intent of extracting captured human cadet Tommy Chen. She succeeded. Casualties, 24 personnel incapacitated, 0 fatalities. Facility damage, moderate. Psychological damage to station morale, severe. He paused, reading it back. Too clinical. It did not capture the sheer absurdity of what had happened. Recommendations going forward, he typed, his thoughts crystallizing into something that looked like policy. First, revise all combat protocols regarding human engagement. Current tactics are worse than useless. They are dangerous. They give our forces false confidence that will get them killed. Second, update intelligence briefings on Earth and Deathworld classifications. Make them mandatory, not optional. Third, and this is critical, do not capture humans unless absolutely necessary. And if you do, expect their pack to come for them. Because they will come. They will always come. His door chimed. Commander Zelenor entered without waiting for permission, looking like she had aged 10 cycles in the past 3 hours. The council is demanding answers, she said, slumping into the chair across from his desk. They want to know how one human did this much damage. Tell them we learned an important lesson about the difference between soft and weak, Velcrim said, surprising himself with the bitterness in his voice. We assumed that because humans bruise easily, break easily, require specific environmental conditions, that they were fragile. We were wrong. Fragile things break and stay broken. Humans break and then get angry about it. The station commander wants to press charges, file formal complaints with Earth's government, demand extradition. Velcrim laughed. Actually laughed. It came out as a chittering sound that made Zelenor's eye stalks retract slightly. He wants to what? Demand they return the woman who single-handedly demonstrated that our security is a joke. The woman who showed mercy to every single person she fought. Commander, if we press this, if we make this official, we are admitting to the entire galactic coalition that we captured a human, tortured his family member into action, and then could not stop her. We will become a cautionary tale. Zelenor was quiet for a long moment. What do you suggest? We call it a training exercise that went wrong. Equipment malfunction. Unauthorized detention. We apologize profusely to Earth's government. We pay reparations. And we never, ever speak of this again. Sweep it under the floor covering. Exactly. Zelenor stood, moving toward the door. She paused at the threshold. Do you think they are all like her? Velcrim thought about Jesse Kane, about the casual way she had dismantled their defenses, about Tommy Chen refusing to break under interrogation, about the intelligence briefing he had dismissed 6 months ago. Yes, he said. I think they are exactly like her. Every single one of them. After she left, Velcrim finished his report. He marked it classified, restricted access, eyes only for senior command. Then he attached every single piece of footage from the incident, every medical scan, every tactical analysis. Future generations needed to understand what happened here, needed to learn the lesson they had learned the hard way. He titled the file, On the Inadvisability of Underestimating Deathworlders, a Case Study. Then he added a subtitle, because his sense of humor was apparently the only thing that survived today intact. Or, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Fear the Humans. He submitted the report and leaned back in his chair, forearms folded across his thorax. Somewhere out there, Jesse Kane was probably tucking her brother into a medical bay, making sure he was comfortable, probably still cracking jokes about the whole thing. And somewhere else, in command centers and intelligence offices across the Galactic Coalition, other analysts were reading similar reports, having similar realizations, coming to similar conclusions. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy was completely unprepared. Velcrim pulled up the data on Earth one more time, looking at that deceptively peaceful blue and green sphere. A Class 12 Deathworld, home to 8 billion humans, 8 billion Jesse Kanes, more or less. We are going to need better protocols, he muttered, but protocols assumed rational actors, assumed logical responses, assumed species that followed the rules. Humans, as today had so thoroughly demonstrated, were having none of that. And honestly, after watching what one determined human could do when properly motivated, Velcrim found himself hoping they never had a reason to be properly motivated again. Because if they did, if humanity ever decided to stop being merciful, stop pulling their punches, stop treating the rest of the galaxy like we were worth saving, well, the intelligence briefing had one more line he had overlooked, one final assessment buried at the bottom of the file. Threat level if provoked. Extinction class. He had thought it was hyperbole. He did not think that anymore.